Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking about cybersecurity. That's right, something that probably a lot of us don't ever think about, but it's really, really important, I promise. And I know nothing about it. So I'm going to learn with you, with our guest, and from our guest, Michelle Novak. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Nice to meet everyone.
So cybersecurity, I was very honest there. I know nothing about it, but I do know it's important. So why don't we kind of start there? When you're working with a new business, an entrepreneur, this is a topic that not a whole lot of people think about it. And I think we tend to take it for granted. Not because the internet is a safe place. Let's just get that out there because it's really not. But we just don't think about it. It's not a priority. It doesn't drive revenue, so to speak. So where do you start with people when you start having this conversation?
Yeah, it's a great question. Brandon, I always start with, tell me about your business, right? Because I think it's very essential that you understand the needs of that person and what they're looking for, especially when somebody doesn't understand what cybersecurity, they'll hear, oh yeah, I think it's about hacking. I think it's about somebody, doing ransomware, like they'll ramble off, like these words that they hear, right? Oh yeah, I heard AT&T was hacked or this one was hacked, but it's not really about that, right? Cybersecurity is a lot more than that. It's about taking a look at your data. I tell everybody your data is your asset, right? And that's what cybersecurity is all about, protecting that data to the length of everything, right? You have to have some type of process or program because let's face it, websites get hacked every day. Your phone gets hacked. Your emails get hacked. So it's not about any of that. It's just really about the data. And that's where I start with them. I'm like, tell me about your business. Tell me about what you are protecting, right? And what's important to you. And then, as they share that with me, we walk through the things that they can do. Right? Because there's so many things that people are not even aware of. You buy a computer, it comes with this antivirus and you think it's going to protect you, from everything. And that's just not the way it works, right? Of course it does its job, but when you have a business, it's a little bit more complicated than that. You need to go a little bit further in and you need to put up a couple of things to protect yourself even further, because again, you're dealing with people's information, right? And maybe you use a CRM or a platform on your website and you believe that you're protected through that. Let's face it, those platforms get hacked. We see it all the time, right? WordPress shut down. I had a client of mine. He had, no joke, 300 websites through WordPress. When they got hacked, all of them was shut down. Oof. He had to rebuild them all because of the way they got in. So if that just kind of gives you the depth and breadth of the things that can happen, right? But that's where I start, right? Getting to know them. And then, educating. I'm always about educating, giving resources. I offer a lot of free resources. If you don't have the funds to do a cybersecurity plan, because sometimes I work with people who are just one person, right? They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have an IT team. They don't even know what VPN is. You know what I'm saying? So, you train them and you teach them. My job is not just about going in there and, sharing with them the things that I can do. It's about training people. And that's really kind of what I love to do. Like, that's one of my things. And I know it's kind of an extended conversation, but that's where I start.
I think that's important too, because you don't know what you don't know, first of all. And that's I think the boat a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves in, and myself included. I'm by no means am I a cybersecurity expert. I've been around long enough to know a couple of things that are important, but I also know to reach out to people to help me with those things. And that's where you really kind of have to start is educating yourself on what's even there and what's important, which is why I'm glad you're here, because most entrepreneurs just don't even think about it. And it's an important conversation. So I want to touch on something you said there, where you said, I use a CRM, or I have WordPress, and you think those third party companies, because they're so big, they are secure by nature, right? So even Stripe, a ton of people use Stripe to process payments. If you're using a very big company, let's call it a HubSpot for your CRM, I'm not picking on them by any means, or Stripe, same thing. What do you need to be aware of for your own protection, and protect your own customers' data that maybe they're not going to help you with?
Yeah, and that's a really great question, right? So I always tell everybody, when you're dealing with third parties in the world of cybersecurity today, you need to have a vendor assessment. You need to understand how you're protected through that third party. And it's a requirement in rules and regulations, within cybersecurity through the states and the federal government, right? Because if you don't understand how you're protected, if they get hacked, right, and your data is leaked through them, can people sue you? Right. And that's really what it's all about today. It's not only about being sued, it's about violations, loss of reputation. Your clients are not going to trust you, but you need to do your due diligence and maybe even add cyber insurance. Right. But if you don't know what to ask, and we all sign up for these websites and we click away because nobody's going to read those terms and conditions. Let's be honest with you. Unless you're one of those that want to sit there 14 hours and maybe read through some parts, but that's really what it is. You need to understand what they offer, and when you're bringing on a system like that, you should ask, right, are you cyber certified? Right. A lot of the cyber insurance companies will ask for that certification from that third party, just again depending on the type of data that you're handling today. So great question.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm scared because you just said insurance, and that's like a trigger word for me, because there's insurance for everything, and it adds up as a business owner, right? But there's that old saying, ignorance is bliss, and I think in this particular scenario, ignorance is actually very expensive, because you can be sued for those things if you don't protect your client's data. I'm quite sure you could be wrapped in that lawsuit, because ignorance is not a valid defense in a court of law, and you need to be aware of that stuff. So outside of those sort of platforms, the CRM, the payment processors, all that stuff, we have insurance to now maybe talk about a little bit. But there's other places that you store data. So what are some other data protection, either mechanisms or protocols that we probably should have in place, but maybe a lot of entrepreneurs don't think about?
Yeah, and that's a great question as well, Brandon. So the first thing you want to do is obviously have some type of antivirus, right? And a good one. I'm not talking the one that just comes out of the box that's loaded onto your computer. You need a good one. Invest in it. It only is a couple of dollars more than what you already got out of the box, right? It's a once-a-year subscription. Do it. I tell everybody, do it. I think most of it's like maybe 89, 200, whatever it is. Even if it's $200, it's worth it, right? Have MFA, right? Multi-factor authentication, right? A lot of tools that we use, right? Even on the Zoom or this or that, right? Today, you can't access anything without MFA. Most of the larger websites, they want to verify you're human. They want to know that it's that person. Right? Because let's face it, there are attacks, if you would, that can kind of infiltrate, and you think you're on somebody else's website and you're not. So VPN, right? Another great thing is VPN, and I will share this on a personal level for cyber, right? A lot of people, we sign up, we have Verizon, we have the internet, we have this, we have that, we sign on, we have our, or a little thing that, when we get disconnected, we have to sign on. But what people don't realize is when you have like those modems or, the towers that you have that come in the box, people leave the standard passwords. And I always laugh because I tell all my whole family knows, you change that password immediately. You change it, you make it something that nobody can find, because the hackers or people who sit outside your house or want to, do man in the middle attacks, they know. And it's very easy for them to get that manufacturer default password for your own. Again, you've heard of, Ring being hacked, right? Like they know that people don't know this to change that. But again, apply it to your business as well, right? Don't just rely on the standard, understand it, educate yourself a little bit, and there's a lot of simple things that you could do that don't cost nothing, right? Changing your password and not leaving it as a default doesn't cost you anything. Just understanding how to do it. Ask a friend, call Verizon, call whoever, right? They'll tell you. But those are the simple things, and then you can go down the road, right? With other things like, we do risk assessments, vulnerability testing, pen testing. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but those are the simple ones. Those three things, and educate yourself.
I like that. That's why I always I make all my passwords password 123 with a capital P, just so it's it's not the standard, but it's easy enough for me to remember. And I think that's smart, right? Am I onto something?
Yeah.
You're probably like, please shut up. Please don't say that out
loud. We'll talk afterwards.
yeah, I'm gonna have to change those passwords. What about you mentioned something interesting there with even just changing your modems and your Wi-Fi router's password at your home. I'm thinking, I mean, me personally, I work from home. Our whole company, we all work from home. Are we exposing our companies to greater risks because we have employees working from home across the country, and they could maybe get into our company's data somehow that way? Is that a valid concern? And what do we do about that?
So listen, it's always a valid concern, but most companies today, when they allow people or BYOD or whatever it might be, bring your own device, right, to work, they have hopefully implemented processes and software onto your systems that protect you, right? I'm assuming that if you're working from home, you're using a VPN and you're not just dialing straight into the server.
Nope.
Okay. Well,
so we do have to talk after this episode, apparently.
Okay. So, the key there, like, you should be using a VPN. If you're working from home, you should not be able to access your company's infrastructure directly at all, ever. I mean, I would just say that, right? You want to use a VPN. You want to use, because that's another layer of protection where you can add, right, additional protection to sign on, validate who you are, make sure that nobody else is connected, so on and so forth. So, I hope I answered your question, but it's scary to think that people don't know that. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And again, it depends on the size of your business. And again, I deal a lot with smaller businesses, so I teach them how to do that, right? I teach them how to connect safely. So, if somebody is out, trying to hack your Wi-Fi or trying to, sitting outside your house, because they do that, right?
Yeah.
They can't get in. They can't see what you're attaching to.
Yeah. Well, listen, I was honest from the beginning. I said I wasn't a cybersecurity expert, and that has now been proven in very, very clear detail on this episode. But that's why you're here, Michelle, to help us with this. Okay, so let's wrap up with this question. What are some either misconceptions about what you do that entrepreneurs often have, or maybe some common things that people overlook that you find yourself implementing over and over and over when you go to work with companies outside of now a VPN when working from home? So that one's clearly established. Thank you for that. But what else do you have?
So employee training. I'm going to say it, or train yourself. Phishing is the number one way they get into hack. And phishing is done, not only phishing, we hear phishing, everybody knows phishing, but there's vishing. There's all these other terms that we use in the cyber world for the different types of attacks that they can do. Email, do not click on those email, right? You have to understand it. Do annual training at least once a year. Understand the trends, because we've all clicked on them, right? You get the text, those wonderful texts. You love the pictures today. Yeah. Well, they load that stuff up with malware and it goes right into your system, right? And they sit months. Some of these guys who are doing ransomware and attacks, they sit months in systems, right? CrowdStrike, how many years? They were there for a while. It didn't just happen. Okay. So they know because they gather data. This is what they do. They're watching what you link into. So training. I always start with training. Please educate yourself. The second part is doing a risk assessment or a vulnerability test. A vulnerability test will tell you where the gaps are, right? Where the gaps are in your systems and the things that you might need to put in place, right? But it'll help you prioritize. So I start with those things. And then the last is a pen test. The pen test is very structured, but that's usually used for larger corporations. You're not going to do that on a smaller business unless they've been hacked. Like I had a client recently who was hacked through a phishing, right? What actually was I don't know if we have enough time here, but it's called a man-in-the-middle attack. So basically what this person was able to do was get in between the internet and the two conversations through their emails, right? He sent over an invoice to his client. Then that client got an email from him saying, oh, please send it to this account and routing number. Client didn't know anything different. Paid the invoice. Wasn't him. He called him like a week later. He's like, hey, I never got the money for that invoice. He's like, what are you talking about? I paid it. And I'm not talking small money.
Yeah.
So, obviously the banks, the first thing they're going to ask is, because they know how it's done, they may not cover you for that. They may not reimburse you. So right now he's fighting with the bank, but I don't know if he'll get his money back. But that's the simple things. Those are the simple things, right?
Yeah.
Train,
so they
educate.
duplicated a real invoice and so they made it look the same and switched the accounts.
So they didn't actually duplicate an invoice. He sent him the invoice. What they actually did was they sent the client an email that looked like it came from him.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And gave them a new routing and account number. It's
so even for training, like that's very sophisticated. The average employee, most employees, I would argue to say, are not going to be able to catch that. What do you do in that scenario?
Well, again, if they would have had some type of system in place to pick up those type of attacks or monitoring, because if you have a vulnerability or a system in place, it's going to alert you that there's something going on with your systems.
Yeah.
You're going to know. Like I have systems, it monitors. It'll send me an alert saying so-and-so's, potential, hack, right? Like I'm using that as a short term, but there's systems that you can put into place that will actually send you alerts, right? Like your internet is unstable or this may have happened, and you look into them, right? It's not as hard as you think,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has all been great information. I enjoyed this episode. You've also scared the crap out of me all at the same time.
I'm so sorry.
But I think that's important because I'm sure some of our listeners are feeling the exact same way. So if somebody is feeling that way, why don't you talk to me about where to find more information, how to connect with you, and maybe what the next steps would be after this episode?
Yeah, so great. I mean, you can go to my website. I'm on the website, cardinalbites.com. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You can also personally reach out to me at any time. I'm always good with that. Pick up the phone, give me a call. I'm available. So I love to mentor people. I love to help. I can put you in the direction for free resources if that's what you need, because it's important. Again, grow the community. My mission is one person, educate one person at a time in cyber. So this way, at least they can share that and learn, and protect themselves. I think that's very important today.
I love it. The website is on the screen. It's in the show notes along with all the social media down below. And Michelle did say that there's resources to educate yourself on her website first and foremost. So I encourage you to go check that out. This is a very serious topic, and I've seen it ruin companies and bank accounts all at the same time. I'm sure Michelle has seen so much worse. So we won't scare you any further on this episode. Maybe that's an episode in the future of just the horror stories. But Michelle, thank you so much for being here.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
For those of you watching and listening, again, all the info down below in the show notes, wherever you are. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.